Recorded Books presents an unabridged recording of A Grave Talent by Laurie R. King, narrated by Alyssa Bresnahan.
Other sins only speak. Murder shrieks out. John Webster, The Duchess of Malfi. Men fear death as children fear to go in the dark. And as that natural fear in children is increased with tales, so is the other. Francis Bacon, Of Death. Prologue. The first small body was found by Tommy Chesler one cold and drizzling afternoon 2 weeks before Christmas. Before dawn that morning, Tommy had left his cabin with his venerable and marginally accurate deer rifle under his arm and a handful of shells in his pocket, his heart set on a supply of illicit venison. He had no license. It wasn't the season, and hunting was absolutely forbidden where he planned on going. But that didn't worry Tommy. Not much, at any rate. However, he did exercise a fair degree of caution, lest a ranger from the park happen upon him, and he stuck to areas where nobody was likely to be that time of the year, particularly in the rain. Unfortunately, that included the deer. At 1 o'clock, wet through, hungry, and in as bad a temper as he was capable of, Tommy turned for home. 2 hours later, he was pulling himself hand and foot up the greasy, nearly vertical path made by generations of agile hooves toward the telltale clearing in the trees that meant the road rising atop the hill above him. He shook his head in disgust at the fresh prints and droppings and decided that he'd just have to go to the newborns and ask for some of the pig they'd slaughtered last week. Trade some firewood, maybe, or split shakes for their addition. Truth to tell, pork was better than venison anyway. Venison you could roast or you could stew, but most of it had to be given away, and you got tired soon enough of what was left. But pork, now. Pork you could roast and stew, and you could fry and mix with apples and eggs, and make bacon, and... Tommy's mouth started to water at the thought of cracklings and red-eye gravy, and when he heard a quick scuffling noise and half saw something lying 20 feet from the edge of the road, his mind was so occupied that it took a minute for his eyes and ears to interrupt. Tommy stopped dead, his right foot already touching the jumble of scree that the bulldozer had pushed over the last grading, and an expression of laborious thought came into his normally blank face. Tommy wasn't, at the best of times, a man who found reflection easy, and now, tired and distracted, he pulled off his hat and rumpled up his hair as if to stimulate his brains. He wasn't stupid. Tyler had reassured him on that point. He was just careful, deliberate. Perhaps that explains why Tommy didn't immediately turn to the object that had caught his eye, but stood for a long moment looking up at the road. Perhaps there was some other reason. However, turn back he did, deliberately. There was a further scuffle. Weasel, Tommy thought automatically, that moved away rapidly through the low shrubs. With care, Tommy walked around a tangle of dormant poison oak, and there before him was a foot, the remains of a small, cold, gray, naked foot. His eyes focused with great concentration on the delicate, round nail.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?